So let's move on to why we're all here, which is to learn from our wonderful speakers. The first of which is Hilton Warmback. So he's the Senior Vice President of Engineering at Playbook. Playbook is a Berlin-based software, enterprise software company that officially launched in 2022. We at the Delta are grateful for our relationship with Hilton and Playbook, and we help them get their MVP to market and onboard their initial German-based clients like Deloitte Legal and Luca. So Hilton leads the technical direction for the SaaS and brings his years of experience working with ventures like Juicy Couture, Clickatel, and Silicon Beach Media. He's been a finalist for awards like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Payments Innovation Award, and has won awards like the Kantar Shine Award in 2015 for the most innovative product. So, Hilton, I'm going to hand over to you to take us away.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. So excited to be here with you all tonight. Let me jump straight into my presentation. Kaya took away some of the best content of my slides, but we'll get into it anyway. So this is bootstrapping on steroids. Basically, I want to try and at least give one of you some lesson to learn, so keep you away from some scars that I've earned along the way. So lots of lessons to share, but hopefully at least one gets used by one of you tonight. So as Kaya mentioned, Playbook, I've been there for 4 months, headed into an organization that's doing miraculous things, making waves in the space. If you haven't had a chance to contact with us, please join up with me afterwards and figure out how we get in contact. Just to start off with, obviously, always good to know, like, why should we even listen to this guy? Who's this guy, you know? So Hilton Warmback, who's that guy? So just a bit about myself. So I was born in South Africa, so a natural-born South African. Hold multiple passports, have lived and operated all over the world. Lucky to have that opportunity. Innovator, whether I call myself that or not, but I feel a bit of an innovator, entrepreneur, tried and failed many businesses, always looking for the next big thing, never scared to jump into the deep end. Family and a man, love the family. To start with, sports enthusiast as a South African who doesn't love sports. And then, as we mentioned twice already, SVP of Playbook. But Playbook, worth mentioning many times. Where's he worked? Again, Kaya stole some of the highlights from me here, but maybe one or two companies you've seen before. Some of them have done some pretty miraculous things. I've been very fortunate enough to work with some of these organizations. All over the world. So I've worked on 3 different continents, 3 different countries. South Africa is obviously the one I'm in now, but previous to this was in the US for 20 years. Prior to that, lived in Ireland when I was working for Full Tilt Poker, and the gambling thing got a bit strenuous in LA, so we moved to Ireland. Across a number of different types of industries and segments, so have tried a lot of different things, always looking for new things to try and grow in. So most predominantly fintech, most recently Clickatel with a number of the payment technologies that they're working on, lots of payment fintech stuff there. They're also a communications platform as a service, lots of chat communication, USSD, SMS, etc. Gaming with Full Tilt Poker in the gambling side of things. Also did mobile gaming, which is always fun. Who doesn't like gaming? Gaming is a very fun industry. Fashion, lots of ladies involved in that. Got to build a lot of the e-commerce side for GC Couture and all the supporting services there. And tourism, South Africa, Rhino Africa, the biggest B2C supplier in Africa, a very cool company. Let's get to the reason why we're here. What I would have done differently in terms of building the MVPs. Lots of experience, lots of war wounds, as I was speaking to a couple of people before we got started. So got lots of battle scars, and I'm hoping to share some with you. Okay, someone else side jumped in, but I'll come back to that one. So I think probably one of the coolest things I can share, I've got a few of these slides that I like to share with people, especially on the entrepreneurship space. The things that you go through, and these are obviously freely accessible online, and also happy to share them afterwards. But knowing the steps that you want to take in order to get to the end goal, and making sure that you take the right steps in the right order, and that you leverage the resources and people around you as much as possible, to make sure that you make it as easy as possible. You know, being a lone guy, treading around in the wild by yourself is quite a daunting task. So you want to get as many people to support you, see your vision, try it out, try your product as possible. So here's a nice little diagram, which I'll be happy to share with you guys afterwards. But anyone who's going through the entrepreneurship journey, these are some key steps to take. You know, always want to start off with making sure you have a problem that's being seen throughout the world, that you're not the only one that has this problem, and then you find your solution. You see if that solution is something that other people identify with, and whether they want to also utilize your service to maybe fix the problem that they're looking at, and that stuff. Probably the most core slide that I want to, or maybe not this one, but this is also pretty important. Before you even get to an MVP, what I recommend to people is try and do some financial modeling. Make sure that your solution that you want to build, or your business that you want to build, actually makes money on paper before you even start writing code. You might find out that the business financials don't work, like the costs are too high, the revenue's too low, too many competitors, commoditized industry, people racing towards the bottom. You want to make sure that you don't start something, invest millions of rands, and then get to the point where you launch and it's like, oh, dude, we're not making any money, man. Like, it's too expensive. Acquisition costs of users too high, or whatever the case may be. So, trying and testing and failing on paper is something I definitely highly recommend. This is the slide that I think is probably the best for everyone here, especially those that are starting out in this realm, and we're talking about MVPs. I think one of the big things is a misunderstanding in terms of these varying different types of solution offerings in terms of POC, prototype, and MVP. A lot of people misunderstand that they're the same thing. They're not the same thing. They have different purposes, and knowing what those purposes and where to use them is really important. Specifically in some of the earlier stages, we're talking about a POC, something along that line. You want to just show somebody what your idea looks like without actually having to build something technologically. You can use tools like Figma to build a really interactive prototype, something that you can use to validate, hey man, do you see what I see as? Do you see the cool thing? Do you see this ability of what this thing can do? Yeah, I do see that. Cool, maybe we should see if we can actually get it to work in tech. You move into the next phase, you build a prototype that may be a bit more tech-enabled, and now show them using some, maybe the base-based stuff to get a bit further along the process. This thing identifies all the different key characteristics along the way in terms of, as you can see down the left axis there, when it would be used, who the audience is. These are all very important things of when to use the right thing at the right time. Considering we're talking about MVP here, let's just maybe jump to that. So, I think we want to validate the idea, find the product market fit. So we want to make sure that that's validated. We don't want to spend too long developing this thing. I would definitely probably, when we talk about those months, we're probably talking somewhere in the 3 to 6 months at longest. The sooner the better. Who are the people that we want to target with this MVP? Well, we want to get a few early customers to buy it and validate whether they're going to use it and it's going to start growing. Investors, as I said, you don't want to be in this game alone. Spending your own money. I've had the misunfortunate situation in my life where I've completely funded a startup by myself, and when it goes down, you lose it all yourself. No one to share the sadness as the thing sinks into the sea. So reduce risk and then move into the next phase is make sure that your product's working. Start understanding what your roadmap's going to be and what the budget's going to be in order to capture that roadmap. And then, once you validate that, let's get into full-fledged market. Let's start building this beauty, What do I've done differently? So these are just some of the lessons. I guess we had another slide here, but it's not yet right up. Anyway, go to market. Like we all think, there's the key to going to market. Hey, I want to go to my B2C. I want to take this product to the customer. Customers everywhere. If you can get a consumer-based product, there's so many of them out there. I can, it's nice, it's easy, it's not easy. In most cases, especially in the banking industry and fintech, the cost of a customer acquisition is super high. So you think that's good. Easier as a B2B operator, if you're a fintech provider, to sell to a bank. You sell to them, their responsibility to sell and find customers, much easier. And then, if you're in the startup space, SMB space, similar to what we are in Playbook, maybe you have a mix of go-to-market strategy. You want to, what I say, take the enterprise, get a bit of cream on the top, focus on the mid-market where you can get a lot of value with a simpler sales cycle, sell online, easy to access customer, low barrier to entry, and get them online. But a mix, I think relying too heavily on one is probably not the best idea and can lead to bad things. The people involved. I was talking to some of the people in the room earlier around the way the way the tech industry has kind of moved its way forward in terms of back in the early days, the companies that were founded were tech founders, people that had a deep understanding of the technology they were building. Now in the instance of Playbook, we have Nick, who's a doctor of law, but he knows tech, he knows what he wants to develop, he's surrounded himself with a bunch of good tech people. So he's not a tech founder, but he is able to understand what the tech is that he wants us to develop, and then he's surrounded himself with people capable of delivering that tech and understanding and translating his business acumen into technology acumen. So yeah, senior developer, definitely keen. You want a finance guy in there, as I said, to make sure the company's going to make money and that you're following the financials correctly. Marketing, super important. Any company that's starting off needs to be able to get customers. Direct sales is very tough. If you can use online marketing and customer acquisition to get your customer way easier, and lots of technologies out there support you. Having a company that looks good, graphic designer, you always want someone out there to make your website and any kind of material that you put out to the world enticing. So have someone that knows how to do that. So these are some of the core roles that I would always want to advise people to make sure they at least have somebody, whether you're wearing multiple hats in this. There are instances where I've had to wear multiple of these hats, but at least get one or two people as well to bounce ideas off. Having support in your startup or experiences is super important. You don't get caught in a vacuum of your own ideas. Don't be a greedy CEO. That's another thing. So in a couple of my instances, I kind of tried to bootstrap them, as I said, for way too long. Didn't want to take other people's money. You start thinking, well, if I give away too much equity, then there's not going to be anything left for me at the end, and I want to be rich. But, hey, you may not make your millions or billions in the first go, and that's something that you learn along the way, especially when you get to my old age of 44 in the tech community. I'm an old man. That you may not make your money the first time, and maybe it's just about making connections this first time around to get into the next phase. And that's the one where you may be able to reinvest your own money and not be so skint at the end of it. Be willing to give away equity. If you find those right people, give away that money. If they're worth it, they'll be worth it at the end. Be clever about how you do it. Make sure you do vesting, etc., that they tie to the organization. So just some clever things there. And probably one of the biggest lessons for me is it's okay to fail. Not every idea that you start with is going to be great. Not every idea that you start with is going to make a ton of money. Not every idea you start with is going to be successful. Know when it's failed, though, and be okay to put a bullet in a dead horse and walk away. It's okay. That's one idea gone. Hey, you're probably a clever person. Many more ideas to follow. So trust in that. Keep the faith. Build the network. More people, more iteration, more feedback. Next idea, start over, and kick some ass. And that's me. A quick 10 minutes. Thanks, everybody.